All right, we are officially here in the present moment, live. Hi, everybody, Facebook. Hi, everyone in Zoom. I want to welcome you to High Speed Healing Wednesdays. If you're new, I'm Debora Wayne. I'm the founder and CEO of the International Chronic Pain Institute. Today, I have a very, very special friend and guest, Margie Bissinger, and we are here. Margie is a happiness trainer. There is such a thing. And the topic tonight is, how is it even possible to be happy during such challenging times, and especially if you're surrounded by challenging people? And so we're going to have an amazing conversation tonight. You're going to hear from Margie. You're going to hear from me. We're going to do tips and tools, and we'll take your questions. So start thinking about what you want to ask Margie. And we're going to do a meditation to let go of the blocks that are keeping you from feeling happy. But I want to share just a little bit about Margie Bissinger before we get going, because she has an impressive resume bio here. And I've never really formally shared that before, Margie. So I want to do that. I want to give everyone the real deal. So Margie she has 25 years of experience. She's a physical therapist, an integrative health coach, and she's been helping people with osteoporosis, bone issues for over 25 years. And she helps them improve their bone health and has a very integrative, comprehensive approach that's really, truly body, mind, spirit. And what's so fascinating is that she interweaves how happiness affects your bones and your health. And I have just always found this like so fascinating. Margie is the author of the book with the title Osteoporosis, an Exercise Guide. So I know many of you on this call want to get this book and learn from her. Here's the other thing I want you to know. She oversees all of the osteoporosis initiatives in the entire state of New Jersey as the physical therapy representative to the New Jersey Interagency Council on Osteoporosis. Now, I don't know about you, but that impresses me. And Margie teaches a 6-week online program called Happy Bones, Happy Life, and believes that happiness plays an integral role in your bone health, your overall health, your life and your relationships in every area. And she also has a program that we'll talk about a little bit later tonight called the Happy Me, Happy Life 8-week program. And she has just been all over the place, including the New York Times with her work. She is truly an expert. And I have to tell you, one of the most open-hearted people I know, and it doesn't surprise me that you teach happiness, that you train other people, you exude happiness, and I'm honored to call you a friend, and thank you for being here today with us.
Oh, thank you, Deborah. You are just so sweet, and you know how I feel about you. I feel honored, and I just love being in your presence because it elevates my happiness, my vibration. It probably lasts a day. I think the Deborah effect. I just always feel so elated and so amazing when we're together. So thank you for this opportunity and to be with your community. I'm really excited to be here.
I want everybody to look at her face and her smile. You can feel her happiness. Now, I got to tell you, for me, like, I grew up always with like a low current of depression. So when I'm around people like this, I find it absolutely mesmerizing that she's like this every time I'm with her or see her or talk to her. Like, this is her normal. So I don't know about you, but I want to learn from her today, and we're going to do just that. Margie, I got to ask you a question, because I had people email in questions as well, and people will have a chance today to share questions with you in the chat or in the Q&A box at the bottom of the Zoom room, everybody. If you have a question, you can type it into the Q&A or into the chat. If you're on Facebook, type it into the comments. And if we don't get to them now, I will go back and we will answer every question. So make sure if you get your needs met today, because this is the queen of happy here. And I want my happy back. So some of the questions that came in today are totally understandable. Things like, we're living in this quarantine. My spouse is home. My kids are home. I don't get a moment's peace now. How can I really be happy? And so right out of the gate, let's just dive in deep. And I want to ask you, is happiness dependent on your outer environment? What does a person really have to do to get happy or to become happier than they are now? Can you give us like
Absolutely, yes. And that's a really wonderful question, because the happiness that I'm talking about is not the Pollyanna, the life world is wonderful, everything's terrific, because we all know that's a facade. And for us to walk around with a plastered smile on would be awful. Can you imagine doing that all day? That's not the happiness. The happiness I'm talking about is a deep sense of peace and well-being that is not dependent on your circumstances. And the interesting thing, though, is that they really studied this. They really studied it, and they came up with the happiness set point, which is everybody has a sort of set point, like a thermostat, where you sort of hover in that area, and you can win the lottery. You can have a terrible accident and temporarily change from your set point, but most people then, they found, go back to their set point. But what is that set point? Here's the really fascinating thing, because most people think, if only I was married to someone else or in a different relationship.
Right.
Right. If only I had a different boss, you know, I'd be happy. If only I made more money. And it was always, if only ifs, and then I'd be happy. And that's what most people think. Their circumstances really are what control if you're happy or not. But that's absolutely not true, because I want everyone to think right now on this call, what % of your happiness set point is determined by your circumstances? And this has been studied. Everybody think for a minute. And the answer is, does anyone want to write, can they write them in for a minute?
Anybody want to take a guess in the chat? What % of your happiness is determined by people, places, and things outside of you? Anybody? Come on. Marilee?
Okay, if they don't want to, that's okay. I'll tell them.
All right.
Okay, anyway, it's only 10%.
Oh, wow.
So it's such a small percent. 50% is your genetics, but now they found we can even turn on and off our genes, but 40% is habits. So there's a huge area, your habits, where you can affect your happiness. And that's the area that I work on, the habits.
Well, so explain that a little further. What do you mean by a happiness habit? Like if 40%, that's a lot, is determined by your habits, like what kind of habits?
There's so many things, but for example, your thoughts, are you a person that is dwelling in the negativity, which so many people are, do you look at your day and see what's not going right and see, and just complain and just see all the things that aren't working in the world? Well, that's habit. Or do you focus on, focus on the problems? Or do you focus on solutions, what's going right? That can be changed. These habits can be changed in terms of, are you a person that lives in fear and stress, or do you work on gratitude and appreciation? So there's different habits like that that make a huge difference. And that's what's fun. It's not hard. I mean, that's, I think, what was so amazing for me, Deborah, is that as a physical therapist, that's how I sort of stumbled into this happiness when I was working with chronic pain patients, and they were so unhappy. And they, and that's when I saw that when they incorporated these happiness habits, all of a sudden, like miracles happened. It was just amazing to me how powerful it was. So it's something that I've been working with patients. That's for 35 years, actually.
That's interesting, though. So what were you seeing when you worked with your clients, your physical therapy clients, right? What were you seeing? And then what did you do with them to make that shift happen?
Well, should I tell my story? I know some people, if they were on your last call, they heard this. But
going a different order. I just wanted to dive in, but let's.
Yeah, because that sort of tells you why I got into teaching them. So. Good. Yeah, so I talked about this the last time we were together, but I guess for those who haven't heard it.
Yeah,
so
there's a lot of people here, and welcome to everybody who's new. A lot of people on the call today. Good.
So I got into happiness. I was always a happy kid, even though my circumstances. So I was a person where the glass was always half full, even when my circumstances weren't like that. It wasn't like I had such an easy life, but it was especially true in my early 20s when I had gotten married, which should have been really the happiest, a very joyous time. But for me, it wasn't, because I found out that the person that I had married had been seeing someone else the entire relationship. And I found that on day 2 of the honeymoon. So long story, but it wasn't the greatest. Obviously, it wasn't the greatest situation. And we tried to work things out, but it didn't. So I moved, and I'm from the East Coast. I was there in Minnesota at the time, but I moved to Chicago, where I really didn't know many people, but I really didn't want people to feel sorry for me. So that's, I think, why I didn't move back to the East Coast. But regardless, I'm working in an outpatient physical therapy clinic with chronic pain, neck pain, I mean, mostly a lot of TMJ. I did a lot of work with head, neck, and TMJ problems. So people had headaches, neck aches, back pain, and people were so unhappy. They were absolutely miserable. Like, each person was just more depressed than the next. And even though they had jobs, they just couldn't see, they just didn't have any joy, and they just really didn't see that there could be something good in their life. They were just completely 100% focused on the problem and their pain.
Yep,
And
I see this every day.
and so, and they would say to me, Margie, you're so happy. What's your secret? And I thought to myself, if they only knew what I had just gone through, which really was in my early 20s, it was not a good situation.
Yeah.
They wouldn't say that, but that's when it hit me at that moment, when I realized that happiness was not based on your circumstances. And what was it that got me through this? Because I actually still was happy. And I was able to move on with my life. And I said, you know what? I started, again, at that time, I hadn't had any additional training, but I just, now I call them happiness habits. I just thought, like, well, what was it that got me through? And I said, you know what? These people are so unhappy. Let's just see. I'm just going to start teaching them. And in physical therapy, you're working on people. So and I was lucky to be in a setting that I had time. I didn't have to really rush through people. It was a really nice outpatient situation. And so I started teaching them different things. Each time we would work on one thing and we build upon it. And all of a sudden, back pain, everybody got better so much faster. I couldn't get over it. And things that were causing muscle spasms, gone. So there's such a relationship, as you know, Debora, there's such a relationship with the mind and body. And I saw that, and I realized that I wasn't really, without doing this aspect, as well as stress reduction too, without doing that, I wasn't really treating my patients, giving them all I could give, and really giving the opportunity to heal. And
so get this. This is exactly what I have found, and why I teach, as you know, that's why I teach a more holistic in my pain-free living program. I want them to understand that the mind and the emotions and the body, they're all working together. It's not a separate issue here. You can't just work on the body. And if your attitude and you're always focused on the pain, and that is what I find with chronic pain, people are always focused chronically on the pain.
And it's really true. And what you focus on grows. Totally. And so it's, and it's hard. And I get that. I get that when you're in pain, I certainly know how it's hard not to. But what was so amazing to me is when they learned these other habits, the happiness itself, the pain started reducing, and they could heal because their body was in a different state, that they were able to really heal, and it all went together. So that's how I started. But then, every single person I worked with, if they needed it, not everybody. There were people who were, didn't need this, but every person I just threw in the happiness. And then when I started working with osteoporosis, and they've done studies actually on osteoporosis, and that when people are more satisfied with their life, they have higher bone density. Really,
amazing.
The funny thing.
And did you hear that? People that are happier with their life have higher bone density. I mean, that is the body-mind connection, if there ever was one.
It's amazing though, when you do, it's not the thing with happiness, is some people say, what a foo-foo thing, or it's so frivolous. But just the opposite. There's major, major research on this. And it changes the cells in your brain, your heart. It's unbelievable what the research is on happiness and how it improves your health. And
you're into that, because the science part of it, because really people do think, oh, happiness, like that's just kind of extracurricular. If it's not a necessity, it's not something we can cultivate. It's just, you're lucky, and and if things go your way, you're more happy. People really don't realize they can be more proactive and take responsibility for it.
It's so true, because the people I find who really start out the worst are the ones who really can't get over that life could be so much better. And that's to me, It's interesting because I teach many programs and I'm lecturing on all sorts of back problems for years as a physical therapist, but truly nothing has given me such satisfaction than teaching my happiness class, because I love what I see. And people, going from feeling just, like, they're like fearful, or they're stuck, or they just think life could be more, and just don't have that glimmer in their eye and the joy. So then having that, it's amazing. And it's not as though their life changed. It's not as though they got a new job. It's not as though something miraculously happened, because there's being happy for different reasons. Yeah. You could be happy because you're on drugs for unhealthy reasons. Right. You could be happy because you really have good circumstances. You're fantastic job, but we want to be happy for no reason. We just want to have that inner sense of peace and well-being. Well, not dependent on something good happening, because that's life. Look what we're in right now. And yeah.
I said to a client just yesterday, and I have been through this experience so many times, where nothing changed on the outside. For example, let's say I've been on vacations before where I was miserable the whole time. And then I've been back to the same place and I was just, oh my God, this is the greatest vacation, the greatest place in the world. See, the place didn't change. The vacation, you think vacation automatically makes you happy. And no, it doesn't, because you take yourself with you. And so it's an inner state of being that you're talking about, that when you on the inside, no matter what's going on the outside, it's going to affect how you feel about it and how you perceive it and how everything goes, just because of what's going on the inside. And we have control of that.
That's the beautiful, I love how you said that. That's the best part. We do. And, Jack Canfield has this little equation, which I really like. Let's say E plus R equals O. So events, because we all can have the same events, plus the R, which is the response, equals the outcome. And we can affect the R, because two people can be sitting in traffic. One is ready to pull their hair out. Their pulse is going, their heart's going. They're going crazy. And the other person's like, you know what? I'm going to take some deep breaths. I'm going to think of some, whatever it is, or use the time, or they're listening to something on the radio. Yeah. They use the time for something. So the exact same situation, one person is still fine by the time they got to work. The other person has been through, has really just gone through an incredibly stressful event. So
it's so true. When I first moved to California, which was a dream of mine, my entire young youth, I wanted to live in California. I finally got here, and I remember driving every day to work in bumper to bumper traffic, and driving to yoga, and sometimes it would take an hour or longer to get where I needed to go. And it's like a 15-minute drive with no traffic. But I was so happy to be here. And so it was so beautiful and everything was new that I was appreciative that I got to go really slow. I could look at every little thing out the window. But fast forward like 3 years later, and after I lived here a few years, I'm like everybody else. The traffic, and can you believe how people drive, and oh my God, and I'm never gonna get there, and like whining and crying and complaining, and nothing had changed. But my inner voice, my judgments, my thoughts, my repetitive habits, all affect everything, every job.
Yeah.
So, okay, let's just get a sense here. Are you guys following this? And do you see and hear how profound this is, like I do? I mean, I'm always very blown away when I talk with Margie. Give me some thumbs up if you're in Zoom and you're relating to this, you're resonating, you can relate to how you've seen in your own life, even maybe the mood's changing, when the outside isn't even changing, but you feel differently about it. Anybody relating or responding? Is anybody alive in the chat here? Like, what's going on? Anybody with me? Give me some thumbs up or some comments in the chat. Thank you, Marilee. Okay, so there's some, there's some. Marilee says, yep.
I think we didn't address though is this time now, it's tough.
Yeah, well, yeah, definitely. Like talk about, this time is definitely unique and we have more than usual. So that complicates things, right?
Yeah, and it's been very interesting to me because every month I meet with people in my class for a year. So we've been meeting, And what I've noticed was that, and I guess this also made me so happy, that people who were practicing these habits became really resourceful during this pandemic. It's like when one door closed, another one opened. And that's what happens when we get through our biggest challenges. And this is what's so amazing. There's always a gift at the end, or there's always a lesson to be learned, and there's massive growth. There's massive growth. And sometimes we don't see it until we look back and we can connect the dots. But I think most people can think about, like for me, even though I was young and it wasn't, catastrophic, but I really didn't realize my own strength. And when I looked back, and then my gift, I might as well tell the fun story. My gift was that across the street in Chicago, I met my husband now, and we've been married 35 years. And so that would never have happened. I would never have moved to Chicago. I would never have really gone out with someone like him, because had I not gone through my experience. So there was massive growth in what had happened. But just in general, when we get through things, and I know, because I've been meeting with people and everyone, and I would ask, like, well, what good has happened? And people have connected with friends from the past. People have appreciated other things in their life, or people have started doing things. They have more time at home, spend more time with family, or started doing things they hadn't done, whether taking up a knitting hobby or whatever, or one person's making masks, doing things that are productive in the world, that's giving them a lot of good things. So I think it is a tough time, and there's no sugarcoating it. I've never experienced anything quite like it. But I really do believe you don't have to be miserable, and that you can have joy. And I think the most important thing I've found, I mean, there's a lot of things, but I think when you live in the present, I think that's so important for this time right now. Because if we worry about the future, that's not going to get us anywhere. And if we dwell in the past, that's not. But if we right now, okay, well, what can I do this minute? Or what can I do? It seems to make it a lot easier. And I've just been amazed at what good things in addition people have. And I think when we get through this, which I believe, I so in my heart of hearts, truly believe we're going to get through this. And I really believe the world will be a better place. I think the world was in a very bad place before this started. And I just think a lot of things have transpired that are really going to make it a better world afterwards. And so,
well, I talk about this a lot in my programs as well, and with clients, and we have choices all the time. Every day is about the choices that we make. And I think sometimes people get a little fatalistic, like, well, it'll just happen. And I'm not a big fan of that it'll just happen theory, because we are part of that creation. We're all creating together, and you can't demand a happier, better world. It has to come from the choices that each individual makes. And we're all up against that choice every day now, more than ever. It's asking us literally to vote. Am I going to get up today and do some happiness habits that make me feel better? Am I going to take care of myself? Am I going to exercise? Am I going to eat well? Or am I going to sit around kind of waiting for life to change? And that's what, we really are being asked to decide. Are we going to play the waiting game, or are we going to be proactive? Because we don't know anything 2 minutes from now. We didn't before, we just thought we did. But we've never known. We can't control the future. We can only respond, like you're saying, to the present moment. This is all there is, folks. And, when you have a really good present moment experience, tomorrow, that experience from today is going to be your yesterday. And so if you want to create a great future, you have to be present and do the best you can in today. That's how you stack up a bunch of great days and end up with a life that you can look back on and feel good about. But if you're waiting for everybody else to do it and you don't see your part in it, this is where so many people, I even caught myself in COVID. After that first month, I'm like, okay, well, I'll be patient. And finally it dawned on me, like, this may not change for a long time. It's not going back the way it was. That's over. We're in a new phase of life. And it's interesting too. I thought about, well, what about, years ago I went to Guatemala, to a very remote town where you had to take a horse to get there, and actually a donkey. And the people up there have no electricity, no cell phones, no television. They don't have a clue what's going on right now, probably about COVID, about the election, about the economy. They don't know. And I bet you not any of them are worried about it. They're living the way they've always lived. And they were some of the happiest people I have ever met in my life. And the elderly people, didn't matter what age they were just like amazing people. They wore very colorful clothes. Like the whole culture looked happy, sounded happy. You didn't hear children crying. And that's, they weren't plugged into those external views and news and noise that influences how we feel. And today, especially in the US, I don't know, everybody's just plugged into that smartphone.
So true, yeah.
In effect, right? What else have you seen that in the science or with your patients, what else have you seen that correlates to bones, or you've mentioned to me even your heart health?
Oh, there is major research, major research. And it's very interesting. There's a Dr. Fred Luskin, and he is the director of the Stanford University Forgiveness Project.
Oh,
and
wow.
what he's found is that not forgiving, which is something that I talk about forgiveness in the program. And it's very, very important.
Because I got several questions today from people saying, please talk about forgiveness.
How good.
What is it? What are we even doing here? Will you please continue down that thread?
Yes, absolutely. Yeah. So, but Fred Luskin, what he discovered was that not forgiving was one of the biggest risk factors for cardiovascular problems. And they've done research, ready for this, on forgiveness. Forgiveness, it improves the cardiovascular system.
Wow.
It improves cholesterol levels, sleep, reduces the risk of heart attack, blood pressure, back pain.
Wow.
Back pain gets better.
Wow.
Better relationships, improved mental health, lower rates of mortality. There's a lot of research. Wow. And this is what I saw. And I wonder if you see this as well, Deborah, but this is what I saw, where people would hold on to things.
Yes.
And I look at forgiveness as though it's like taking poison and expecting the other person to die.
My favorite saying. That is my favorite quote. No, seriously, because that's exactly what happens. And we don't realize the severe consequences of it. And it's like we're getting some sick pleasure out of it as well. And it just, when you can't do something about, and you feel harmed by someone and you feel violated, it's reasonable to have an emotional reaction. But the choice comes with how long are you going to hold on to something that you can't change, especially if you've tried to change it. If you know the other person isn't willing to change or the circumstance can't change, you are only harming yourself, right? And
it's so true. It's really interesting because in his book, this Dr. Fred Luskin, I think it's called Forgive for Good. He talks about a patient of his, Dana, who absolutely said the wrong against her was too horrible. There's no way she could forgive, which is what a lot of people do. Yeah. And so he said, well, Dana, what happens if I took a gun to your head? And I said, the only way you're going to live is if you forgive. He goes, well, if you put it that way, I certainly would. Of course I would forgive. And he goes, well, you know what? No one's holding a gun to your head, but you're slowly killing yourself by holding on to this. And it's so interesting because actually an interesting story is that there's a woman who's young, who's in her 20s in my program. And she lived in Israel. She actually lives in another country. And she was doing, right now my class is going to be live, which it hasn't been for a while, but she was doing the recordings. And she said to me afterwards, she said, I had to stop. I couldn't continue when we did the third module on the heart, because part of it was doing this forgiveness practice. And she said, I just couldn't go through, and I just stopped. So she probably stopped for a couple of weeks.
Wow.
And then she said, you know what? I did it. And then she contacted me afterwards and she said, I can't thank you enough. I am like a new person. And the thing is with the forgiveness, and I think this is the key.
Yeah.
You don't condone what the person did. It can be horrible. Exactly. You're not condoning it at all.
No.
You are just you are just forgiving so you can move on. It's for you. And that was, I think, the best thing I did with that relationship. Everyone would say to me, how did you forgive him? And I forgave him immediately, immediately. And I think because I did that, and everyone's like, don't you want to kill him? Don't you want revenge? Don't you want this? Don't you? And I'm like, no, let him live a good life. I want to move on with my life. And so that I was able then to get into a new relationship and just to move on, what I see years and years and years from childhood, even people are holding on to things. And
No,
it's
this is what I find
amazing
all
though.
the time. I find I did it myself until I got into my own healing journey. I would get up in the morning and there were things from 10 years prior that I was still pissed off about. And every day I would think about it again and get pissed off again. And it was feeding me in a sick way. That anger was releasing, that adrenaline was pumping. And I was like, ready for a fight. The only one it hurt was me, and it affected me physically, mentally, emotionally. And I see that with chronic pain with almost everyone I work with. And in my programs, what I have found is that there are it's what you mentioned as well. There are emotions that they never got to express, and and they think that letting go of the hurt and forgiving someone means they're condoning it, and that the jerk is just going to get away with it. And that's not what we're saying, everybody. Sometimes you do need to speak up. Sometimes you need to take legal action. Sometimes you'll need to take actions, but it's the everyday habit of thinking about it and stewing over it and feeling it in your own body and rehearsing it and talking about the same story again and again and again. And that is literally releasing toxins into your body. Your nervous system, your immune system is being affected by this. My thyroid was affected by this. There's just, and obviously the heart. And I find that true, Margie, that when people have unresolved painful relationships, typically, they have heart issues. And in 9 out of 10, probably 10 out of 10, there's emotions that never got released. And mostly it's anger and fear. So, that's where when you find someone like Margie or myself, where you have a safe space, where you can be honest, you don't have to pretend with a fake smile, everything's fine. You can be real, but you don't hold on for dear life to the things that are harming you. You have choices and you finally say, I want to change. I'm tired of feeling like this. And only I can do something about it.
And the thing is, I'll tell everyone an easy thing. I teach a couple different ones, and we have forgiveness meditation. And as I've been going through the program, there are things that have come up that I didn't realize. When I'm working in meditation with everyone else, I'm realizing, wow, there were other people or other things in my life that I haven't forgiven. So, you can still improve yourself. And it's amazing each time you forgive, you just feel it's a lightness. And I think that's one of the things that people always tell me, that they just feel so much lighter in general when they're doing the habits because they've let go of things. But one thing everybody can do, and this is really easy. There's a lot of different things, but this is one that is just write a forgiveness letter. Just write to the person and forgive them in the letter. And you don't ever have to send it. But just the act of writing it is, there's many different techniques, but that's an easy one. Just the idea that you're going to forgive them. You're not condoning. They could have done the worst thing in the world. It's not that we condone this at all, but we forgive. Think of Nelson Mandela, what he did. And there's so many people who you really are, I respect for forgiveness, but it sounds so.
Emphasize what you're saying, though. You're saying you forgive the other person for yourself.
Yes, that's it. It's for yourself. It's just so you can move on and you don't have to hold on to this poison. It's, it's like, you don't, why should you hold on to it the rest of your life? For what? It's just harming you and not allowing you to live your best life. So that's what's,
A question in the chat is interesting. Lori's asking, what if the person is honestly dumb and can't see that they are hurting you with their actions, yet you still want them in your life? How do you not become resentful? Now, so first of all, I want to just point out that you are part of this equation. You see, it takes two people to be in a relationship. You're making a choice to be with this person, and you're judging them and judging their character at the same time. And with judgment, you'll never be free. You'll never be free. If you find yourself judging yourself or anyone else, you'll never be free to be really joyous, because you're in judgment, and judgment literally equals pain. And so you're making certain choices here, but you're making them. And what you're doing is it's everything we've been talking about. You're expecting the other person to change to make you happy. And what that does is it sets you up as a victim, Lori. And when you're a victim, you're stuck. You're definitely stuck. Margie, you want to talk about that a little further, please?
Yes, I thought you said that really well. But here's the thing, victimhood is absolutely when you're in victimhood, that's complete opposite of happiness, because you really can't, you want to be a victor in life, not a victim. And the big thing there is to catch yourself, blame, shame, and complain are the three things that are part of victimhood. So when you catch yourself in that, I always first just be aware, oh yeah, and then what's the solution instead of focusing on the problem. But in that situation, the people around us completely affect us.
Yes.
It's contagious. Okay. It's contagious. And we all know those people that just, that really zap our happiness, the happiness vampires. I mean, we can all, I'm sure, think of people that when we're around that don't uplift us, it's just the opposite. And so what happens is, yes, just like you said, Deborah, you have a choice. If you want that, first of all, I mean, there are times where obviously family you're not going to get rid of, but there are people that are just too toxic for you, or that it's better just to, not continue to cultivate that relationship. Otherwise, boundaries then. Boundaries. You can tell the person, you know what, I'm really working on my own happiness and trying to increase my joy or whatever it is. And let's talk about it for a minute or something if they want to complain or something. But then can we move on, because I find it's seeming to, whatever it is. Or you just say 5 minutes, or you just make boundaries with that person. But then you're choosing. And one thing I found really helps when there are people that do things that maybe, I'm a very healthy eater. And so when I'm, with people who are eating like the worst of the worst foods, I don't want to judge them. I don't want to be in judgment. So what I do is I choose to look at what's good in that person. What is that person's special sauce, or what's good? And when you focus on what's good in that person, the other stuff doesn't really bother you. And it just, so I think all the things you said, you choose to be in that relationship and choose how you want to do it. And you can make the boundaries for that relationship and just see. The last thing I do, and I don't know how with your work, if you have to do this, because you have so much energy. For everyone on the call who doesn't know, I haven't, people who heard me last time on the call will have heard this, but I am Deborah's biggest fan. The first time we met, it's at this Mindshare event, which is coming up tomorrow, actually, online. But it's this event for all health and wellness practitioners. And they had sort of I guess it was an energy boosting session. So because it's a long day, and I got there late because someone had hurt their neck and I was helping them as a physical therapist. I walk in and I didn't know what happened. The room is like energized, like I've never felt anything in my life. I'm thinking, and I'm a person that can feel energy, but this was beyond. I laid down on the mat, and just the most amazing experience ever. And afterwards I went up to Deborah. I said, I have never experienced anything like this. Invited her to come to my class, which she has. And it's just, so anyway, but in terms of the reason I brought this up was because in terms of energy, so when you're a physical therapist, you're working on people, and you could get more, you're touching them. So if there's vibes which go back and forth, and I can't say I only want to see patients who aren't happy, I can't determine. I don't have, you can't say, oh no, you have bad vibes, I won't see you. That's just not something you can do. But what I would have to do sometimes is send out the positivity, or send out good wishes to them. First of all, keep my energy really positive. And even what I would do, and this technique works, this has worked with a lot of people I work with, fill yourself with white light. Just fill yourself with white light, because darkness can't get into white light. So if you're going to have a talk with someone at work or your boss and they're negative, fill yourself with this white light and then just send out positive vibes. So that's what I would have to do. the worst scenarios, I had to actually create a shield if it was that bad. But for the most part, the white light and the sending out the positive vibes really works.
So I
So
want to give a shout out to one of my clients, Marilee. She has had massive success with this recently since we started working together. And she had a mother. I hope she's typing into the chat about this. So I'm assuming, Marilee, I can talk about this. But all right, good. She was having, difficulty with a very negative mother who was watches the news 24/7 and was bringing her down. And so Marilee went to her mom recently and said, "Mom, I'm on the healing energy diet. Let's put the negative things that are happening in God's hands and shift to talking about positive topics." And her mother respected her boundary, which Marilee she never voiced this before. And her mother literally started respecting her boundary. They're getting along better. I mean, this is so beautiful. I love that. The healing energy diet. She just voiced what she needed, and in a very loving way. She didn't say, "Mom, you're so negative. You need to stop that. She didn't use the you word. She said, "I'm on a healing energy diet. Let's talk about the positives." And you know what? Anyone who's really a friend is going to do that with you.
absolutely. And I don't think people realize it's
Yeah.
not that. The truth is most people aren't thinking, oh yeah, I'm really negative. They don't really think about it. They just go on their life. And what happens in families, this is why I love even working with young people who are just starting families it doesn't really matter where you are in your family, but you set the tone. I mean, I think the best thing people can do for their families is to increase their own happiness, because then you're a role model. And when you set the tone, just like you said, where we're going to focus more on what's working, it changes the whole family dynamics.
Everything. And we have that ability. And I want to just go back to what you said a moment ago, because it's so key. No blaming, no shaming, no guilting. You see, those are the things that keep you stuck. Nothing changes if you're just waiting for someone else to change. If you're blaming, you're stuck. If you're shaming other people, you're stuck, or yourself.
You know what? That's what I was going to say. Self-shame and self-anger towards yourself is there have been so many stories of people who have really, really cured themselves because they weren't angry at the world, but they're angry with themselves. And they don't even realize that, I mean, I think we can all relate. We are so nice to the world, and we would never treat ourselves. We would never treat other people oftentimes how we treat ourselves.
Right. We're definitely our own worst enemies. Most people I know would be kinder to a complete stranger than they are to themselves. And that is just not okay. So, all right. So the time is ticking. I want to, before I forget, because we're going to do a little meditation in a few minutes, but I want you to tell us a little more about your program and what happens in there and what people can expect, what kind of results. Why do people take the happiness program?
People take it for different reasons. I think whatever level you're at, certain people really feel like that they just are stuck in life, or they feel they feel unhappy, or they feel, and truly happiness is a birthright. I just believe everyone can have joy. No one has to live life just not enjoying it. That's not really there's another way. So I think people take it because they're in pain and they want to learn how they can be happy regardless of the pain, or they're feeling good and they just want to get to the next level. It's like a Maserati that's driving on 40 miles an hour when they could be driving 70. So I think or even higher, but I think it's wherever, so people take it for many, many different reasons. I think a lot of people are stuck, and a lot of people want to get to the next level and just, maybe find more meaning in their life. But so that's what I love, because there really is a transformation from the class. And this time I'm doing it live, which I love doing it live, but I haven't done it really in like a year live. So I just felt right now the timing is right for people. And basically it's 8 weeks. And it's 8 weeks, an hour a week that we're together. But if you can't come live, it's actually going to be it's early in the morning for Pacific, but it's 12 noon Eastern time. So it would be 9 o'clock Pacific time. But if not, you can watch the replays. But
Way to start the day. They get live and they get your happy vibe and they get to learn and practice first thing in the morning. I think that's brilliant,
Yeah,
actually.
I picked that because I thought people work, they could maybe start a little later and get themselves all happied up. And yeah, we always start with a Qigong exercise to really get the energy going. I'm big into real easy Qigong. That's fun. And then people on the East Coast, it's lunchtime, so they could sort of work around it. So that was my thought. So we'll see how this, a lot of times I've done it at night, but anyway, so each time we go through different pillars. It's like a 7-step process.
Yeah.
And so there's the pillar of the foundation, you know, the Victor business, the mind, the pillar of the mind, the pillar of the heart, the body. And since I'm a physical therapist and health coach, we really talk about certain, like sleep. We really go into things to help sleep because sleep affects everything, but majorly affects happiness. They've done a lot of studies that, you know, the sleep you got the night before is more important than your relationship when it comes, and very important when it comes to happiness. And then the soul, which is my all-time favorite, like how to connect to a power greater than yourself. And when people do that, it's amazing how they can really, their happiness soars and just so many things. They get clarity in life and it's incredible. And then we talk about purpose and passion and also relationships, you know, how to improve the relationships and what we can do and foster.
Awesome.
And so, you know, just because those are like all different areas of happiness. And then at the end, the last class, we put it all together and really how to manifest your dreams. And so lots and lots of tools. It's sort of like a smorgasbord of different things. And we're all working together. There's a Facebook group and it's interactive. And so there's a lot of room to, because that's, I think, the best part of the class. I just don't think you can, I really don't, I think it's very hard for people to do it on their own. Yeah. You know, okay, yes, you're going to write in your gratitude journal, you're going to do this. And yes, these things help. They all help, but it's very hard to stay motivated. And it's very hard, you know, we're busy in life. It's like you forget. So when everybody's working together and we lift each other up and we celebrate our wins and we're all in this zone of happiness, it really works. But then afterwards, what I found is once a month, I meet with everybody for a year. Because I really found what happened was I did it initially, and then I found people started to lose it a little bit. And they said, you know what, and they kept repeating the class because they wanted to say it. And I realized, you know what, let's keep it going. And I love it too. I love the class, and it keeps me, it actually elevates my happiness and energy. So once a month we meet, and that's at night. That's at 8 o'clock, actually, on the last Tuesday of every month. We'll meet for a year. And we just, or I mean, most people have stayed in. We're just continue because.
Well, it's brilliant. It's the accountability and showing up and being part of something greater than yourself. A group where everybody's focused on the same goal is really the secret key to staying on track and achieving something, because the mind is set up to slip back into the old comfort zone unless you're practicing the tools. And I always tell people, you don't put gas in your car once and expect it to run your whole life. Like, you've got to keep feeding that engine. And that's what you're doing in your program. It's brilliant. I love it.
And the most important thing, though, is sort of like proofs in the pudding. I have to say, because I was giving all sorts of classes during the, you know, everyone, what I found is that people saw where they could help the most. And so I was doing a lot of stress reduction and different things, exercise, you know, just trying to help people. And, but meeting with my class, when I met with my class, I could not believe the resilience. I just was really, because when you build yourself up and when you build your own happiness and when you practice, then, you know, when you have these waves in life, and that's life, life is not, there's ups and downs, but you can ride them. And that's what I found. And I think that just made me so happy to see that people didn't fall apart. Even, you know, a lot of people were in terrible situations and still are. It's not like they're situated, but they just discovered new things, reinvented themselves, you know, so many things. So I thought that was the best part, that it really gives you the resilience so that you can go through life and be more, and just ride whatever happens.
Wow, it's so beautiful. So everybody that's listening here today, or to the recording, if you're just listening to this recording that will go out tomorrow, Margie has been gracious enough to give my community half off of the course. So the course, there'll be a coupon code and a link that we're going to send you in the email with the replay tomorrow, and I'll post it on Facebook, and you'll get, you can you'll get it in the email tomorrow as well with the replay. And this is an opportunity to get her live, which has not happened in a long time and may not happen again.
Yeah, yeah, I don't know. That's true. And I also, it's really, I mean, the course normally is $297. Now
Yeah.
it's $197 and half of that. So it's like $98.50.
Did you hear that? Oh, I didn't even know that. So the
Yeah,
course
so it's really inexpensive. Yeah.
$297, and then it was $197, and she's giving you guys, my tribe, half of that. So it's what, 97?
Yeah, no, it'll be, let's see, so it's $197 and half, so $98.50.
$98.50, my friend. That is an amazing offer for a year, to spend a year with her. Like, whoever doesn't do this, I don't know. There's something wrong.
But should I tell them also there's some bonuses I threw into?
Yeah,
My goal right now is to just help as many people as I can.
yeah.
So the bonuses that I threw in are a program I did called Beat Belly Fat, Bloating, Bone Loss, and the Blues with Joan Pagano, who's an exercise physiologist who worked with Carolyn Kennedy and Jackie Onassis. So she's really, and then there's a clutter challenge I did during the pandemic. So it's 4 hours. This is not my area, but I worked with a professional organizer. So we did a class together. She was really helping me. And that's there. And then let's see, a great Pilates hour video by a really wonderful instructor, and also a program by Tom O'Brien about helping your brain. So lots of goodies also.
Anyway, I'm going to send everybody all this info. We have like only 5 minutes left. Those of you that are going into the HighSpeed Healing universe at 5 o'clock, you'll join me there, and we're going to talk about communication skills, which will feed off of what we talked about tonight, to set better boundaries and ask for what you need. But please, everybody, take a look at the email tomorrow. Check out Margie's special program. If you have any questions, you can email us, and take advantage of being with her live for an entire year. I can't believe how generous you're being, and I appreciate that so much. So thank you. And how do they, well, I'm going to send them all that tomorrow.
Oh, okay. I mean, basically, you have a link, Deborah.
I have a special
link, right? And then they just write, they'll use your link that you're going to give them, and then they'll just write friend 50. Yeah.
Friend 50, I'm going to put that right here now, is the coupon code. And we'll send you all of this tomorrow, so don't worry about it. But I just typed in the chat. That's what's going to give you the half off of her program. But let's end tonight with a short little meditation so that you can just start today to integrate everything Margie has shared with us today. You can start to really become more aware of yourself. Sit back and close your eyes. And if you're driving, stop and don't just turn me off and come back to the recording tomorrow. You need to be in a safe place for this, but just sit back, close your eyes. And I want you to take a deep, deep breath in through your nose and open up your mouth and let out a big sigh. And relax your belly and breathe into your low belly and pooch it out, fill it up, and draw that breath up into your heart. And now open your mouth and let out a big sigh. And as you continue to breathe, just normally and easily and effortlessly, a very natural breath in and out through your nose. Just let everything settle in that you heard tonight that spoke to you. Let everything settle in that you know was speaking to you, that's truth for you. And feel your body responding to what you just experienced and heard tonight. And I want you to take a moment and think of someone or something that's been bothering you, troubling you, upsetting you, where you felt angry or resentful or even afraid, or it's been weighing you down, draining you. Think of the person, the place, the event, the situation. It could be from years ago, or it could be from minutes ago. It doesn't matter. And let the first one that pops up into your mind come up into your mind, and just pick that one. And as you think about this situation or person that upsets you, that messes with your happiness, Notice where you feel it in your body. I want you to notice, how does it feel when you think about this person or situation? Where do you feel it? How do you feel it? How do you even know it bothers you? Take a minute and experience that feeling, that sensation, or maybe it's more than one feeling, and maybe it's a lot of sensation. But I want you to feel it. It's real. Feel it, experience it, let it come up. And now I want you to imagine that that pain, that problem, that person, that event, whatever it is that is causing you to feel unhappy in some way, I want you to imagine it's a rock. It's a rock, and I want you to picture the size, the shape, the color of the rock, and a symbol on the rock that represents that person, that place, or that event. And in your mind's eye, or in the area of your body where you feel it, I want you to picture that rock. Now, if you don't visualize easy, that's okay. Just imagine this rock in whatever way you imagine. You can just think about it. You don't have to see it. Imagine this rock, whatever color and shape. It could be huge. It could be any size. And then imagine a symbol of some kind or an image on that rock that represents this person, place, or event that's weighing you down. And now I want you to imagine right in front of you is a door. And I want you to imagine you're opening the door. And just stay right where you are. But as you open the door, you notice you're at the top of a hill, way up high. And at the bottom of that hill is a lake. And I want you to take that rock, wherever it is in you, and imagine it comes up and out of your body now, and it just falls down, down, down the hill, all the way down. Watch it going down, 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 and it drops into that lake, and it sinks deeper and deeper and deeper, deeper, deeper. It is gone out of sight. Gone. Sit quietly for a moment. Feel the empty space where it was. And turn your palms up and silently or out loud to yourself say, I am open to more joy, greater peace. I now open myself to happiness. It's possible for me to be happy. And just sit quietly and feel what's happening in your body. And take this with you tonight. And as we say goodnight, sit quietly for a few minutes after this call. And you can do it again if you have another boulder, rock in your body somewhere. You can repeat this if you have more, but sit quietly and just let yourself really feel what just took place. And know that you are such a beautiful being, and I'm so grateful that you're in my world. Thank you for joining us today. Come back next Wednesday and keep an eye on your inbox for tomorrow. We'll be sending out the replay with all of Margie's special gifts and generosity, and I highly encourage you to take her program and just let yourself be happy. All right, my friends. Margie, Thank you so much for taking time out to be with us. You're the best.
Oh, thank you. I'm feeling so amazing. I love that meditation. And as I said, I'll be on like high for a day after your energy, Deborah.
I love
And
it.
everybody, I feel everybody's energy actually, which is really, really wonderful. So thank you so much for inviting me to this special class of
You're
yours.
so welcome. All right, bye everybody. I'll see you in 1 minute in the High Speed Healing universe. Love you all. Take good care. Bye everybody. Bye Facebook.